So what we have here so far, if you've been following along, is our 3D printed BMO body, which was printed with a Raise 3D large format printer. So this entire thing is just one print, which is pretty amazing. If you've seen the previous stuff I printed out, our BMO boy here is also, one piece, but a lot smaller. And the print size of my current printer is about this. So you can see BMO boy fits on there pretty good, but not so good for Big BMO. So needed something bigger, and that's where the Raise 3D printer comes in. It can print this entire thing out in one shot, so it's pretty cool and a really nice print overall. It's kind of a shame to have to paint it over, but that's what we did. As you can see, it's nice and smooth with the BMO decals on and looking very BMO, but we need to put it together. So let's get started with that. The first step is the screen, and now for this one I'm using this cool screen. I get these off of eBay. It's an 8-inch diagonal HDMI screen, and I put the control board on the back there with some double-sided tape. And it's a really sharp looking screen, so I like using these ones. They have this protective film on them. But the print has some nice slots that will hold this in place. I don't know if you can see that go in there, but it slides down. There's a little lip that sort of holds it. You can kind of hear it click into place. I don't know. You may have heard that. I don't know. But now we have the screen in place, but don't want it to fall out. It's in there pretty good, but I made these little brackets that will go in there, and they screw in into the threaded inserts, which I've already used my soldering pen to put in. Chances of that coming out are zero. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little tab holds it in there, and then these two, I'll have additional ones I can probably poke down into there. And so the next thing, what else should we put in? Buttons. Buttons go here. They have the threaded inserts already in there, and I use a slightly different button board. BMO Boy has this one board in the back that has the USB and the buttons all in one, but this is such a big thing I don't want to make a giant PCB, so I made two separate boards, one for the D-pad, one for the other three buttons, and a separate board for the USB, and a bracket to hold that in the front. Okay, so you got the buttons printed out. We'll put those in. Start with the D-pad. And I use these tiny little springs. The D-pad actually has 5. It has 5 holes in it, so it'll rock around. And those just fit in those individual holes. I don't know if this is the best way to do a D-pad, but that's what I came up with. And that goes in there, which I lift that up with this. I need to lift this up a little bit, so the button doesn't get, D-pad doesn't get pushed up. Alright, so this is conveniently marked up, down, left, right. And that goes like this. Up is up, I assume. Button in. Give it a quick test. Feels like a D-pad. Now we'll move on to the rest of the buttons. They're the same thing. They have just one spring each. Now these join together with a cable, so I'll just connect that right now. Four of them. Alright, same thing, give it a quick check. Yeah, it feels like it's working out really good. Okay, let's move on to the servos. Mounting them can be a little awkward because you got to get the arms screwed in from the inside. But what I'm going to do is I have this little plastic bracket that I've already printed out, and the servo hub's on there with a couple of small 1.6 screws already threaded into the hub, but I'm going to put this on first. Cool. So you can see the hub is inside there now, and I've already fiddled a little bit with the programming to figure out how this should go. These arms have holes in here where I fitted some small brass inserts, and then there's an indentation that matches the hub, or whatever it's called. And then I can screw in from the inside to keep that arm secure. Servo number 1 is in place. Same thing with servo 2. There we go. Both arms are on. So, on to the brains of the operation. Going to mount our Raspberry Pi 4. Now you're asking why are you using a Pi 4? Why aren't you using a Pi 2? Well, you could probably use a Pi 2 if you wanted to. It's underpowered for what we're going to do, and I'll tell you why later. There's 3 mounting points for the Pi, but there's 4 holes. So I added a standoff with a bolt on there to keep our expansion board in place. This is a simplified board. If you're familiar with BMO Boy, uses a slightly more powerful board because it has a USB hub in there. There is a video jack and an extender. I don't need that because we have a USB, plenty of USB ports on these 4s, and we're using HDMI. So I have a board here that does not have a USB port or hub on it. Saves a little bit of power. Eventually I'll make a board that's better fitted for the Pi 4, but I'm going to reuse what I got for now. Some 11mm standoffs on here. And those get secured with screws. The Pi gets secured with screws. I secure it with an 11 millimeter standoff on the header side, so this will lock down better. Cool. And what this board does, it drives our servos, adds microphone and digital audio output and button control. That works out well. This is the cable for the button control, and it just plugs into the header here. Assuming I get it in the right direction. Then the servos plug in. The left goes on the bottom, and the right goes on the top. They are marked on the board, but it's kind of hard to see. Looking good so far. That's what we got so far. Next, we're going to put in some ears, which are actually speakers. BMO speaks out of his ears. To do that, I got these 3-inch speakers, 80 ohm 1 watt speakers. Let's see if I can get that in there perfectly. And that will connect down here to the digital audio. All right. BMO has audio. As soon as I plug it in. All right, so the next thing is communication. I find it convenient to hook up one of these wireless controllers or keyboards, which also works as a mouse inside while I have a chance. So little RF module goes in. One of the USB ports. So internally, things are looking pretty good. Let's move on to, well, let's move on to the feet, right? The legs are just these 3D printed legs which go into these slots and rotate into place. Okay, let's move on to powering BMO. This will be the battery compartment, and I'm using a 6400 milliamp hour battery by this company called EasyAct, which apparently doesn't make these anymore. I like these batteries a lot, and the reason why is they spit out more than 5 volts. To show you what I'm talking about, hope you can see that. If I connect up my battery to this USB cord, which I've exposed the 2 wires on, this is a charging cable, and then hook it up to a multimeter, I can see how much it's spitting out. Now be careful if you ever try this. You do not want to cross these leads. Make sure that does not happen. You do not want to short out a lithium polymer battery. Bad things will happen, so keep them apart. So this, when it's dormant, has 2.75, but it registers 5.3 volts, which is great because by the time that power gets to the Pi, it's going to be less than that. So this will prevent brownouts and such, which is really cool. But I can't find these anymore. I have a few of them, but so if you can't find that, there's this other company that makes one, like AINOPE. I don't know how to pronounce that. Please, if you name a company, make it so I can pronounce it. AINOPE. I don't know. This one I can find, and is a 5.14, which is still good. This is a 10,000 milliamp, I believe. Yep, that's a big bulb. But in the past, I would use this is a few years old from EasyAC, and this is a 20, I think. No, that's a 10,000. Wow. But this one I would get brownouts with, because it's 5.08, and that would drop out after a while. I mean, with all the stuff with the servos and things going on. So if you can get a good power pack, you'll do yourself some favors. But I have one of these, and what I've done is I've made it so you can add custom hold down plates so you can switch out whatever type of battery pack. So this one was designed specifically to hold this guy, which just screws into the back. From the back. I debated where to put this battery pack. I do like them in a compartment I can get to. I opted not to put a charging port on this. You can. In the past, what I've done is had this as a removable plate as well, and I would have like a charging port that would go into there, and it gets to be a lot of work after a while to design all that, and I didn't use it all that often. I found out I would just run out of battery power. I'd take this out and put a new one in, and so having it here would make it a little more convenient because I can remove the battery by taking this gray piece off. The plate will stay in place. So now comes my wiring harness. What this has to do, it has to power the HDMI at 5 volts and the Pi at 5 volts. To do that, I just split a USB cable that came with this. You usually want to use a charging cable because they got beefier. They just have 2 wires and they have beefier wires in there. Otherwise, you get 2 data cables as well, which makes them a little thinner. So this came with its own charging cable, so I just cut that. The HDMI comes with this power cable, which is designed to go to a jack, a circular jack. So I just cut that part off, and then I take my Pi cable and my HDMI, the LCD cable, and I tie the red wires all together, and then I tie for the Pi cable and the LCD cable the ground wires together, and then I hook the ground wires to this switch because the ground is this, when it's on, it connects the ground wire and the power will start to flow. And then I just put that in here. Now I have a power switch in there. I connect up my leads again. Now I have the ability to power this thing. And what I want to do is make sure I got everything. These extra wires on the servos are cool. They're for positional data. I don't have an ADC to read those. I will probably add that later. It's kind of cool, but it was one thing I didn't want to deal with right now. Let's figure this out. First, I will hook up the LCD cable. It might be easier if I just put that part in last. Let's do it that way. LCD cable goes way up here. Okay, so we got all the power cable in there. One more thing I almost forgot. There's a microphone that goes right there. It's a digital microphone, a very tiny little thing, and I have it right here. And that goes into a little slot that should snap into, otherwise I'll use some adhesive to hold it in. It's not a big deal. Shouldn't be taking a lot of strain. Don't think it'll pop out, but plug that in. If it doesn't stay, I'll use some adhesive tape. Almost forgot that. Wouldn't be as fun without it, I'll tell you that much. Alright, so back to the power. We've plugged in our Pi and our screen. Gonna hook up the actual USB pack now. Make sure it's turned off. And then hook up the blue leads here. And then finally, give it one more peek and make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Which I probably have. And then screw on the back panel. Yay! And then, so the panel goes on. Do we dare see if it works? I say we dare. So, first things first, take off our back panel, turn them on. Hope you can see that. Should be some cool software here. I won't be able to get into too much detail on it. I'll do that in the next post, but we have RF connection. Cool, cool. Let's let it boot here for a second.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Or more kind.
That was a giant leap indeed. So, what do we have here? Let's see. Say something for us, people.
Hello!
So, I can pick pre-matched BMOs to keys that I program here, or hopefully, if everything's hooked up right, we can do voice recognition. What time is it?
It's your time. Come on, grab your friends. We'll go to very distant lands. We'll take the dog and bring the human. We'll never end adventure.
So that's using Google Voice API to do some speech to text translation, and then there's a pattern matching algorithm. Not very sophisticated, but it tries to pick out an appropriate response. I thought that was appropriate. Are you a robot?
I am a little living boy.
Okay, that's, BMO knows what to say to me now. So, there's a lot of little things we could ask. Give me a fist bump. If you ever wanted a fist bump from BMO, that's cool. But, what else do we got here? There is a window manager that I've added to this to allow us to control BMO, and that's why this is such a cool thing. It allows me to use a mouse, and I can probe around in here and look at BMO's file system. Let's see, there's clean jokes. BMO does not have any dirty jokes. So you can get rid of this driver here if you want. It's really not needed from what I heard. So why don't we just put that in the trash and get rid of it because it's taking up space. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm starting to think maybe I should not have deleted that. What do I do now? Well, let's check the help files. BMO's got some help files. FAQ. Listen to how do I play video games? How can I fix your damaged files?
We can get them at the mole factory in the Badlands, where I was born. I'm programmed with the emergency instructions to get there. Come on, there's no time to lose.
I don't have time to go to the Mo factory in the Badlands. But I did notice something over here. I don't know if you saw that. You guys are sharp. There's a repair option. Let's give that a try.
Good morning, everyone. I didn't have any dreams.
We're good. Wow. Don't do that. Don't delete that. Okay, please don't do that. There's a lot of things that are in here that are pretty cool to play with. However, I'll cover that in a different post. I just want to show some highlights of certain things. Video games. Well, let's check the high scores. And look at BMO. He's got this friggin', look at that thing. I have no idea what he scored that on, but it's Adam Munoz scores pretty high there out there too, and Finn's just rocking it. Apparently, Peppermint Butler ain't so bad either. BMO also keeps a running list of low scores, so don't score poorly on anything. Video games. There's a new video game that I'm working on specifically for BMO. I want to show it to you right now, at least a demo version of it. It's still in the works, but I want to do custom games, and that's why we're using a Pi 4. It has the power to run games. By games, I mean real games, written in C++.
Who wants to play video games?
Mr. Emulation Station does not like it when you start in without a gamepad connected. I suppose I could get the keyboard set up, but let's try that again.
Who wants to play video games?
So, RetroPie is the back end for all the gaming menus and such. I didn't want to redo that. RetroPie does it better than anyone else. So it's just Emulation Station and RetroPie. Let's let those guys handle the cool stuff. So if you want to do retro gaming, that's cool, but we're not going to do retro gaming. We're going to do what the opposite of retro gaming is. I think it's, I don't know, whatever the term is. So this is a game that I wrote. Pretty unique game. You've probably never seen anything like it in your life. The name's even unique. I don't know how I come up with this stuff. But let's take a look at it. It's called Candy Crash. And one of the things is that it is it's a mouse game, so what I can do, it works best with a mouse, let's just put it that way. Let's plug in a mouse. And this is where the USB ports in the front are really handy. Now, I could use the mouse on the gamepad, on the remote keyboard, but this is just a little more easier to show you what's going on. Let's fire this up. So BMO enters the land of Oo. Now I'm going to zoom in a little more so it's a little easier for you to see. So BMO has entered the land of Oo, and BMO's job is to visit 3 kingdoms in between and finally get to Moko. And in between he's got to play some games. That's what you do in Candy Crush. And let's go take a look at one of them. So it looks pretty unique. I don't think anyone's ever seen this concept before. It's pretty amazing. You have to match 3 things in a row to score points. And the idea is to remove all the marshmallowy tiles while adding as many sprinkle tiles as you can. To do that. And oops, we got the marshmallow guy here. If he goes off, he adds more marshmallow goo to the screen, so we got to get rid of him. But as you see, the sprinkles start to grow over and over. Now we got a candy corn. We matched 4. The candy corn basically will do a rocket launch, horizontal or vertically, depending on which way you go. So let's do that. Cool. And these banana guards don't do it. They just get in your way. They're guarding something. But to get rid of them, you just do an adjacent match and they destroy. Oh, we got ourselves another candy corn guy. So let's see if we can clear off some more stuff here. I'd like to get another 4 in a row, and that way we can get a root beer bomb. We'll see if we can find one. If I can get a banana guard, if I get a lemon drop into there, I could do it. Don't see one that's going to easily fall into there. But that's the concept, and as BMO finishes each of these levels, you will be, oh, here, that's not what we're looking for. Here we want. So let me, well, it picked a rocket over a root beer bomb. Darn. But the idea is that you can now make, using a product called Game Maker, native games for the Raspberry Pi that run at 60 frames per second. And although it doesn't look like there's a lot going on here, there actually is. There's probably over 100 sprites being drawn right now. All these things are sprites, they have to move. There's particle effects. I have this little debug cheat thing, so I'm going to start showing you how to... here's a root beer bomb. And the root beer bomb blows up. There's Pep Butt, who's your super guy. He is the ultimate candy piece. He does a lot of particle effects. And it goes out in style. And finally, you can do combo pieces. Let's say you had a root beer bomb connected to a candy corn rocket. Hey, they got another one. And the combos with the root beer bomb and the Pep Butt would be something like this. That was a pretty sizable clearage there. Let's see, I need to, oh, there we go. That should finish the level. Then you go on to the next level, and if you clear off enough levels, you move to the next panel within the kingdom, and then when you complete all 3 panels here, there's 3 panels you clear, you move to the next kingdom. And so in this level you have these gumball guys who are kind of stuck. So you have to rescue them. To rescue them you need an adjacent match, and then they get sent over. And so on. Again, it's in the works. When it's done, we'll post it to GitHub and people can download it and try it out for themselves. I already have a game called Lumpy Space Invaders, which was written at a much lower level than this. Game makers making stuff incredibly easy to create. Cool games for the Pi, thus cool games for BMO. So I'll have a whole nother post on both the BMOS window manager and this progress on this later. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this 3D printed BMO that again was done with a raised 3D printer, which is I'm still pretty cool. It doesn't look like plastic, but it is. And we will keep you updated on the progress of all this. So get back to our BMO. Goodbye.
I think my batteries are wet. Goodbye.
With that, we will sign off.